Hello and welcome to the Unity and Diversity Podcast, pursuing unity and healing through open dialogue and intentional relationships. Unity and Diversity is a conversation amongst friends, hosted by Jordan Priscilla Gray and Floyd and Ebony Rogers, coming to you from the great city of Fayette, Alabama. We invite you to join us now as we dive into today's topic. Hello and welcome to the Unity and Diversity Podcast, where we're promoting unity and healing through open dialogue and intentional relationships. My name is Jordan Gray, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Priscilla Gray, Ebony, and Floyd Rogers. Hey, how y'all guys doing this week?
How's it going?
Good.
How's it going? Glad to be here.
Yeah,
Good,
awesome.
good.
Glad to be here.
How's y'all's week going so far?
Good.
Been going good.
Yeah.
Can't complain.
I know. Yeah.
Looking forward to this. We haven't had a lot of people since the first episode we done. A lot of people have reached out and told us. I think that the good that they've gotten out of it. So
Yeah. Absolutely.
been pretty encouraged to continue doing it. So I've been looking forward to it.
I know.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, we did that Facebook Live a couple of weeks back, I think.
Yes.
And it probably won't make it on the podcast feed, but that video has gotten over 900 views to this point. I saw that today.
Wow.
It's
Okay.
just,
Wow.
I think it's, I don't know, it's a relevant topic. People want to hear about it. People want to talk about it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, today we are talking about stereotypes. Those things that we tend to assume or believe are generally true about people depending on their group identity.
Yeah.
And it can be all kinds of groups. So, men are slobs, women are picky, old people love Facebook, but they can't really use it. I mean, all kinds of stereotypes about all kinds of groups. Today we're specifically going to be talking about racial stereotypes. And there again, we could talk about all kinds of races, Latinos, Russians, Jews, there's all kinds of stereotypes. But we're going to keep it narrowed down to just African American and Caucasian, black folk and white folk, stereotypes, and we'll be talking about that today. Mm-hmm. One of the things that we thought would be fun, we threw this out on Facebook about a week ago. Tell us some of the stereotypes that you have heard about black people or white people. And so we got a list. I just want to read this list out for you guys. This is some good stuff. Good stuff. So white people can't dance. White people can't jump. White people like Starbucks. They don't season their food enough. They are slow. White people don't take their shoes off inside the house. Only white people can be racist. White people don't get cold. White people are too quiet in church. White people put ranch on everything. White people are the only ones that can be nerds or geeks. White people love country and they hate rap. And my personal favorite, white people smell like dog when they get wet.
I want to add one.
Okay.
And white people don't use curtains.
Which y'all can't see right now is right behind the camera is a big old window with no curtains on it. We've even got a bathroom with no, It's true.
But hold on. White people can't dance.
Now,
Yeah.
She can
You can
dance.
definitely
I've seen her dance. She can definitely dance. So.
this white person cannot dance.
And this black person cannot dance. So. All stereotypes are not true.
That's right.
That's true.
But they are funny some.
They are funny.
I can't say when we get wet. I don't know if you call it dog or what, but it's not good. Whatever it is, it's not good. That's true. It's not good. Okay, black people. Black people love fried chicken and watermelon. Black people are all good singers. Black people can't swim. They like Kool-Aid, particularly red Kool-Aid.
With a lot of sugar.
Yes, with a lot of sugar.
And that one may be true.
Black people put their butter in the freezer. I've never heard that before.
I've done it.
Okay.
Butter in the freezer,
I've
okay.
done it, yes.
Okay. Black people are always the first to die in a scary movie. Even though there's another one on here, black people are superstitious and afraid of ghosts. So it's in the movie. The white person's like, I need to go in the basement and check out that noise. Let's go. And the black person,
We always run. But for some reason, we still always die.
Still that.
Go figure.
That's a funny stereotype.
Yeah. Foreign blacks, so we're talking about Caribbean blacks, African blacks, are poor and just angling for a green card. That's one we got turned in.
Yeah.
Black people make some noise in church.
That's true.
That's true.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's true.
Black people love rap and hate country. They love The Color Purple.
The movie.
The movie, yes. The
Yeah.
movie.
In the book. Yeah.
Black people don't turn their phones off speaker mode in public, and they don't know how to change the smoke detector battery. That's another one I never.
I think the phone is probably for older black people.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
For whatever reason that is.
That's funny.
I think it's hearing problems or something. I don't know, but
Yeah.
my mom does it. So anytime she calls us or we're on the phone with her, we have to watch what we say because
She's on speaker.
we don't know where she's at, but we know for sure that she's got us on speaker.
Walking down Walmart.
In Walmart,
and tell them where she's at. Yeah. So we have to watch what
Definitely
we
on
say
speaker.
because we know we're on speaker.
Oh, that's good.
So, going through that list, like, some of it's fun, a lot of it's funny, some of it's like, yeah, that's true, So we're going to talk about stereotypes, like, one at a time here in a second. We're going to go through some specific stereotypes. But one of the first things I wanted to do was kind of set this up. How do we think about stereotypes in general? Because it's not always a bad thing. Like, sometimes it's just observing reality.
Yeah.
Well, I don't see very many black country music stars. I don't see very many white rappers. There are some. You got Darius Rucker. You got Eminem. But, on the whole, we're just observing reality. That's the stereotype. However, we also know that stereotypes can pose challenges. They can promote hurtful attitudes.
Yeah.
They can just be flat out untrue.
Yeah.
Where I'm thinking something about a group as a whole that's really just not even true.
Yes.
So, kind of what I want to throw around to the circle before we even start talking about specific stereotypes, what potential pitfalls do you see with stereotypes in general? What do you think?
So the first thing I see is that it dehumanizes people, and I'm not saying it's like we talked about some of these, and some of these are super funny, but it's like, it just keeps us from seeing the person because we just see it as, oh, you're a person that's superstitious, or oh, you're a person that can't dance, or etc. Like we just see it like as that's just who they are. It dehumanizes them.
Yeah. Stop seeing the individual as the individual.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so true.
I think it could definitely prevent us from developing some meaningful relationships. Right. If we view a person a certain way, we tend to shy back away from that individual just because of our past experience or just the stereotypes in general that we've always heard, and we start to believe them. I think that it could stop ministry opportunities. And before we started recording, I talked about an incident where I was in Birmingham one day, and I think I was like in a grocery store parking lot, and this woman was in the parking lot. She had like, I think she was a Muslim woman, but she had like the turban-like thing around her head. And she asked me, she said that she had just bought this car. And she asked me, she said, can I help her locate where the trunk is located so she can pop her trunk? And the first thing in my mind, it was like, nah. I've already played this out of my head. When I hit that trunk button, the whole car is going to blow up. I'm automatically thinking she's a terrorist because of the stereotypes that we tend to develop, with these individuals. Yeah. So what I did do is I told her, I said, nah, I don't know where it is, and I missed that opportunity. That could have been a relationship, could have been a ministry opportunity, anything. But anyway, long story short, what I did is I went on the other side of the parking lot and I watched her ask other individuals to help her. And I saw an individual that actually took out his time to help her. They popped the trunk, nothing happened. Right. And I beat myself up all the way home after that. But I started thinking about it like, wow, I really just could have missed out on a golden opportunity to minister to someone.
Wow.
But I missed it because of the stereotypes. After 9/11, we started looking at Muslim people differently. Yeah. So I dropped the ball.
Absolutely. I love that. Because it does keep us from getting to know a person individually when we think, oh, that type of people, there's something bad about that type of person. So I'm already putting up my barrier. I'm not even going to take the time to get to know you.
Or even if it's not as far as saying there's something dangerous about that person or there's something wrong with that person. It could be just going so far as saying, I know I'm not going to fit in with that person.
Yeah.
You know, just because of what I know of the group or whatever, you know, even that is going to keep a relationship from forming, is going to keep me from getting to know them as an individual, because just right off the bat, nah, that's just not somebody I need to spend my time trying to fit in with, because I'm not going to fit in with them.
Yeah.
I saw a quote last week where it said, the problem with stereotypes is that it takes one story and it makes it the only story.
I like that.
So, like, a lot of these, you know, they're true, you know, for some people, or maybe for a lot of people within the group, but there's other stories going on.
Right.
You know, everybody's unique, and
That's right.
so yeah. I mean, it really. You said something about it steals your peace. And
It does.
It steals us from enjoying life as we could enjoy it.
That's right.
Can I expand on that, because I mean that was a great comment, that it steals our peace.
I think, and just using that situation that I just talked about, it stole my peace, because me as a minister, it beat me up so bad. I was like, wow, I'm sitting here, don't even know this individual, and I saw how it played out, but because of the stereotype, I made up my own movie in my mind that I was about to blow up. This individual was a terrorist, and I beat myself up because I'm like, that person probably didn't know Christ, and because of this dumb stereotype that I have in my mind, I wasn't there. I felt like I dropped the ball, and so I said it robs you of your peace, because it bothered me the whole way home, to the point where I actually even talked about it in one of my sermons that church that I preached in, because that's how much it bothered me. It's okay for me to talk about it now, but because I learned from the situation.
Right.
But I throw it out there also because I don't want us or anyone that's watching this to develop in their mind their own little realities of something that's not even real, you know?
Yeah. That's
Right.
good.
I don't know if I answered your question.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, and I think, you know, because I have a little story about kind of it robbing my peace. You know, we were talking about going to Israel back in 2014, and on our way back, it was like a 12, 13-hour flight, and you were sitting on the aisle, and I was sitting next to you, and the two men that were sitting next to me ordered kosher food. And so, like, this was a red-eye flight, so it's all overnight. We're supposed to be sleeping, and I could not sleep a single bit because all I could think about was this plane is going to go down because I'm sitting next to men that are eating kosher food.
Right.
And, like, so perfect example.
Yeah.
Like, I could have rested. I could have had peace. I could have felt okay and comfortable in the situation I was in, but it stole that peace that I had, that perception of people who eat kosher food. They must be dangerous.
Which is funny, because we're on a plane from Israel where like 90-something% of the people eat kosher food.
Right. But, you know, again, like that, it totally stole my peace. And I think it's the same thing with other smaller instances. You know, you and I were talking about, you know, when you're walking down the road and there's a man walking towards you, and honestly, it could be black or white, you know, depending on what they look like.
Yeah.
And we have fear because of that. And, you know, so again, and maybe there's some good reason we need to be careful, but at the same time, it steals your peace when you're automatically assuming things about people that you've never even met, talked to.
And I think some of those, I guess, stereotypes or prejudices kind of form from the news, things that you see, what you experience in life. Like even with the Muslim culture, we get it from, you know, 9/11. Most of us has, you know, fears from that. Then usually early in the morning, you listen to the news, you always hear about someone robbing someone getting murdered, you know, and it's usually black men that's on the news, so then you automatically have that fear that black men are dangerous.
That's right.
And it doesn't just necessarily affect, you know, white people. It's going to put a fear in black people as well, because who's not living that life, they still want to protect themselves and their family. So, you know, it's I guess it's, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, it just plants a seed in our head.
Absolutely. Robs our peace.
Robs our peace.
Yeah.
I thought that was such a good point, that it's not, stereotypes are not just something that white people do to black people and then black people do to white people. It's something that we all do to all of us.
All people, that's right.
We, you know, black and white, we felt the same thing about 9/11, about the Muslim culture. And again, you know, like it was just because of this one narrow incident and a very small group of Muslims. But that's so that's the kind of things I think build the bridge, you know, where we realize, oh, we're feeling a lot of the same things.
Right. Yeah.
You know, as we were sitting there talking, I was thinking about too the stereotype that we all may have in common when it comes to homeless people. I know y'all have watched the videos to where you see a homeless person on the street and you give them some money and they go spend it on drugs, they go spend it on alcohol, or some of them got a cup and this is what they do for life. They drive off in a Lamborghini. You know, so that stuff like that blocks us from helping out certain homeless people. Because that's something that always crossed my mind when I see homeless people. I'm like, they don't look like they look like they can work to me.
That's right.
Not really knowing that this person could really be an individual that really needs that dollar bill, that $5.
Absolutely.
You know, so I think that we all share that also, you know, when it comes to homeless people. So it's things like that we can miss out on ministry opportunities because we can form in our minds our own realities from a stereotype, from something that we've seen or heard.
Yeah.
So I got a story on that because I used to work downtown, just a few blocks from the Harbor Center, where, you know, a lot of people around downtown, that's where they go to eat lunch in Birmingham. So, you know, walking from my building to that building, it wasn't just that you saw homeless people, like you saw the same homeless people over and over. You almost like got to know them almost. And there was a couple of different encounters that I had over the years. One of them was actually not on that walk. I drove to a Burger King one time and was sitting in the drive-thru to the Burger King. Now this was on the south side of Birmingham, over by Children's Hospital. And in the drive-thru line, I saw the guy coming, you know, car to car, knocking on the windows, asking for money. And he got to my car, and I rolled down the window. He asked for money, and I said, I'm paying with my card, man. I actually don't have any cash on me, but I tell you what, if you want to go stand on the other side of the drive-thru window, I'll order food for me and for you, and I'll give you some food on the other side. And so he's like, okay. So I order, and I remember like I hedged my bets, because I was used to getting like a double cheeseburger meal. So when I ordered, I got a 2 cheeseburgers meal. So that like, if he was there, I'd give him one. If he wasn't there, I'd eat both of them. You know, I was good either way. So I get to the end of the drive-thru and he's not there. And like, for whatever reason, it hit me that day. I was like, I'm going to go find him. He's not going to just ditch me like this. So I whipped my car around into the alleyway. There he was. I pulled up beside him, pulled my window down. I mean, you remember the story of Peter John in Acts, where like the blind man looks at him, or not the blind man, the lame man. The blind man couldn't look at him. The lame man looks at him like expecting money. That's how he looked at me. Like you just pulled up to give me money, and I reach out the burger and the fries, and he starts cussing at me like, "Get that blankety blank out of my eye," and he left. And I was like, well, stereotype confirmed, you know? Yeah. Another instance, walking from my building to the Harbor Center, somebody comes up, asks for money. And I said, dude, I don't have any cash, but I tell you what, I'm walking to Milo's right now. Why don't you come with me? And he did. And so we went, and, you know, we sat in the Harbor Center, me and him, talked about his life, had a meal together. I brought my lunch one time. I remember this. I had some Tupperware. I can't remember what it was, like some roast or something. And there's a park.
Priscilla cooked that?
Maybe.
Seasoning on.
I didn't have a season on. No, it was bland. So between one of the library buildings and the courthouse buildings, there's a little Henley Park. It butts up to Lynn Park. But a lot of people eat their lunch there. I was eating my lunch there. Homeless guy comes by. I was like, hey man, and he asked him for money. I was like, I ain't any money, but you can have some of this roast. Dude sat down and we started eating the roast together.
Oh wow.
So it's like, okay, there's a stereotype, and there are homeless people that are just, you know, they don't care. But there are homeless people that's got a story, and you could sit down with them and hear a story, you know?
Right.
So it's just, I don't know, that really busted up a lot of my stereotypes.
Yeah, and Jordan's got a lot more. If we had all the time,
oh
boy,
yeah,
tell a lot more stories.
Yeah.
But you know, the same thing. Growing up in Birmingham, you know, I had some interactions. Well, and even like in college, I volunteered for some organizations. But so I had stereotypes, and we grew up, in Roebuck, where people would park in our church parking lot and go sit on the interstate and beg for money.
Yeah.
So we grew up knowing that was a thing. Yeah. But I think that where that still goes wrong is when we're stereotyping people. We're still blocking connection. We're still blocking the opportunity to talk to people, and even if they are taking advantage of people, let's be more childlike in interactions with them. And
Jesus said something about this, right?
Yes.
Like turning the other cheek, and when they compel you to go 1 mile, which is not just to compel somebody to carry your stuff a mile.
That's between him and them.
That's right. You carry it too, though.
That's right. That's exactly right. So that's the thing, is stereotypes still shouldn't block us from doing what we should be doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's our whole point of doing this, is showing that we all have so much more in common than we have differences.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And also, it shows that we're all created by the same God.
That's right.
And God wants us to get to know one another. He wants us to build relationships with one another. Because people just really don't see the importance of doing that these days.
That's right.
They feel like if I don't need you, there's no sense of me going across the tracks.
That's right.
We're good over here on this side.
That's right.
But you have people on the other side that may need you to cross those tracks.
That's right.
Because they're looking for people to show the love of Christ, or show that there's people out here that really still cares.
Yes.
Bridging the gaps.
Bridging the gap. Yeah. But we need those people too.
That's right.
I think that there's so much that's lost, to even say oh, well, these people need me. Well, I need those people too. I need, we can learn from each other. And I know in this conversation we were kind of talking about homeless people, but anybody that's different from us, if we're only surrounding ourselves by people that are like us, then we're not really going to grow.
You're right about that.
That's true.
As you was just saying, I was actually just sitting here thinking, and it goes for anyone who thinks that we're good over here, we don't need to go over there. There's nothing to get out of it. I think about, when I go down to the jail or to the juvenile detention facility, I think it helps me more than it helps them.
Absolutely.
Because it reminds me of days that, I could be this individual any day. Anybody could be this individual.
That's right.
That's
right.
And also, too, it just encouraging people and letting people know you care. That should make you feel good inside, knowing that you've done a good deed.
That's right.
Not saying that will get you into heaven or anything, but it should make you feel good because you're blessed, and someone else could be receiving a blessing from you because you're blessed. You know,
right.
and that's one of the things. I probably sound like a broken record when I say this. I truly believe that the only reason God blesses us the way that He blesses us is so that we can be a blessing to someone else.
Absolutely.
So it's all about that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, I have some specific stereotypes, and honestly, I don't know. This might end up being like part 1 and part 2 because there's a lot, But before we get into that, I don't know how many people saw the Facebook Live last week, but one of the things that's really important to us as we approach these topics is the approach itself.
Yes.
Because we read a scripture last week from Joshua, where the commander of the armies of the Lord, he's there before Joshua, and Joshua said, "Are you for us or are you for them?" And the Lord says, "No, no, not for you, not for them. I'm God, right? Are you for me, right?" And it just kind of opens up this third door that we're looking for, where so many of the conversations these days, it's us versus them. And honestly, we're hardly ever having those conversations with them. We're having it with us about them.
That's right.
Yeah.
But where can we meet in the middle? Where can we have common ground? Where can we talk about these? And so, as we go through these stereotypes, that's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
We're looking for learning from each other. We're looking for developing empathy with each other, listening, and really developing intentional relationships. Because relationships ruin racism. I said that last week. So anyway, let's go through these one at a time, and guys, I almost hate to read them because we talked about this. We as we got ready for the show, we were kind of debating should we even pick some of these things up because they're offensive. But really, what we came to was But that's the reason why we have to pick these things up.
Absolutely.
Because they're out there causing destruction right
That's
now.
right.
And what we're trying to do right here is deflate some of these hurtful
That's right.
stereotypes, take the power out of them,
Amen.
and find healing. So
That's right.
we got some black, some white. We'll try to kind of alternate back and forth. But the first one I have here is the stereotype that black people would rather have handouts than work. The stereotype of the welfare queen.
Yeah.
Of I would rather just sit there and take money from the government instead of work a job. Again, very hurtful, very hurtful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just curious, like, when you hear that, what feelings does that evoke? Where have you heard that or felt that before? What experiences could you add to that stereotype?
I mean, I've definitely heard it before, but I think that with all government assistance, someone's going to take advantage of it at some point. Whether it's the mom with, many different children and she needed to provide for them, or someone else. But I think that even that stereotype has a deeper root.
Yes.
When you think about government assistance and the welfare system, and that would probably go on a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
That's much more deeper than just a stereotype of someone being a welfare queen.
Yeah.
Because that system, I feel like, is set up to trap a lot of people in itself.
Yeah.
We totally need to have an entire episode about
yes.
welfare.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm sure. No, go ahead.
No, but I was just gonna say that it's definitely hurtful. Because some people just can't get ahead.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, when you start having children and a single mom don't have a lot of help, then some people feel like what else can I do?
Right.
It's hard to be home, take care of the kids, and work.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely hurtful. But again, I feel like you don't want to, just like you was talking about the homeless guy. You don't want to take one situation and then propel it on everyone and say this is everyone's situation and this is what they're doing. Versus it's an individual thing and it's the character of that individual versus it's all black women with children who's on welfare.
Yeah.
And I think when you start talking about things like that, it can be definitely sensitive. It definitely hurts for us to hear things like that, especially when we know that being from the United States. Once upon a time, it was slavery here.
Yeah.
And a lot of different big businesses that are operating today wouldn't be operating if slaves wouldn't have built them.
Right.
So to say that black people are lazy, that's something that, of course, it's a stereotype. But it hurts when you grew up in a family where, like my family, for instance, my mom worked sometimes 2 and 3 jobs just to provide for me and my 2 brothers. And so we barely seen my mom. My grandma pretty much raised us, because that's all she done. And even us, I'm 40. I grew up working pretty much all my life. I had to really go against the odds. I had to prove myself. I felt like I always had to be more than just the stereotype. So I always felt like I had something to prove just because of these stereotypes. And again, I think we probably need a whole episode on this because you got to look at history and but I think a person who is what's the word I'm looking for? A person who has pretty much common sense.
Mm-hmm.
You can look at things like that and know that it's not true. I think people use that for political propaganda.
Yes.
But I remember too when I started applying for jobs. So my name is Ebony Nicole, and my aunt, she would always tell me, don't use Ebony, always use Nicole.
Oh,
Wow.
And now that I'm thinking back on it, I'm like, when I show up, I'm still going to be black. At the
Right.
But, and I don't know if that came from the stereotype that maybe black people, that they're lazy or they won't show up or you don't want them to work. I don't know what was in her mind at the time when she told me that.
Yeah.
Right.
But I guess, like you said, at least it'll get you through the door.
Right. One door anyway,
So.
Yeah. Well, and also, I don't know that this is in a stereotype conversation. This could be other, but like maybe you were going to be a safe black person, where it's like, Nicole. Okay, so she's more white.
What would they say about Obama? He can speak white. I mean,
Yes.
remember
Yes.
Harry Reid? I can't remember which one that said about that comment. Maybe it was. I don't want to misspeak, but
Yeah.
that was the idea that he
I heard that
he was an
before.
okay black guy.
He was the exception.
Yeah.
That type of thing. Yeah. I don't know. But I'll never forget that. That was early on when I started applying for jobs. Like, I was like, okay, well, maybe I should. And for a long time, I put Nicole. I started doing it. I don't know if it made a difference, but I did.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, I'm so glad you bring up kind of the history of it, because I mean, like, slavery, obviously, we could talk about how white slaveholders were the lazy ones that didn't want to work, right?
Right.
Completely flip opposite. But then into the civil rights era, where so much of the fight was, we want jobs. You know, we're barred from employment, and we're trying to get in to work. And God, I mean, that wasn't that long ago. And I mean, you know, it wasn't that long ago that it was enshrined in law, but certainly the effects are still felt today, even.
Yeah.
That's right.
So yeah, that's.
But even. Oh, I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead.
I think even if you think back with history, and even with the blacks being enslaved, it was because they were strong. They was able to work long hours. Well, they were perceived as that way.
Right.
But then even with now, with childbirth, black women are expected to bear much more, pain than white women are. And they'll go a longer time without even getting medication just because of that I think it has
Really?
history. Yes.
I have not heard that.
Yeah. So it has to be a stereotype. But then when you apply to jobs, you must be lazy. Like, or if you're not working, you have to be lazy. But if you, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then if you
I
look
guess
into
it's like
that,
a contradiction.
no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that was it.
I was just gonna say too, because this is something that we're dealing with right now, even in the city. We're dealing with, me being just spearheading the housing committee. We talk about things like those single mothers. If you make too much, then you can't live in certain.
Yeah.
You can. First of all, you can't get certain government assistance, and you can't live in certain apartments and stuff like that because you make too much.
That's right.
But they don't make enough to be able to have their own home. So it's kind of one of those things that you have to depend on government assistance.
Yeah.
If not, you wind up being homeless.
Right.
So it's kind of like some of these things are put in place to make you depend on the government, and also too, some things are out of habit. So if you have a person who has to have government assistance for a time being, for so long, I mean, after a certain time period, you may not even want to get off of it. We talked about the time when I first came home. Everybody know, I've been to prison before. When I came home from prison, I got denied from living in certain places. I was denied from receiving certain government assistance like food stamps, and I really needed it. So my back was really like against the wall. And I started to sit down and think, because of certain books that I've read, the system was really set up for me to resort back to what I knew. But thankfully, God had, put people in my path to where I knew something else. I learned something else. I didn't just know just selling drugs. I didn't have to resort back to that. I started doing different investments, as far as real estate and stuff like that. So I'm kind of glad that they denied me, because if they had not denied me, I could have been one of those individuals that got comfortable living off government assistance. So sometimes you get into a cycle and it's hard to break those cycles and get up out of cycles. So again, that's one of those stereotypes that could be true and it's not true.
Right.
But at the same time, it's a stereotype.
That's right.
Right.
Doesn't mean, again, we're talking about, I like what you said when you said it's not the only story.
That's right.
And it could apply to anyone. It doesn't just fit with a certain group and a certain color.
Right. Well, let's go to the other column, white people, and I think this one is really more like Southern whites, because I hear this a lot more from. It comes more from the coasts. It comes more from the intelligentsia, I guess you could say, that they're dumb rednecks and bigots. I mean, you hear like Alabama, Mississippi, right? 49 and 50. They're always behind on everything. But you catch it in pop culture, in the movies. It's just Southern whites are going to be cast and coming out of probably the slavery stereotypes that we're always going to be the ones that were racist. We're always going to be the ones that were a little bit slower than the rest of people. So anyway, the white stereotype. I guess that's for us to respond to. How does that? Do you feel like a redneck? Or how does that hit you?
First, I want you to define a redneck because I'm not familiar with that term.
So
I always thought that was an offensive.
What's that?
If someone calls you that, is that offensive though?
Oh,
A redneck? Yeah.
It is. Okay, I thought so.
So it's like the time with the N word or no?
Is what now?
Would it be equivalent to the N word?
It's funny because
Some people
I think
I see it on shirts and stuff.
Yeah,
so.
some people are okay with it.
I think logically, because you've got comedy shows. Jeff Foxworthy, you might be a redneck if, but then again, you got Dave Chappelle using the N word too.
Right.
Yeah. But I heard this the other day. It said redneck is really the only racial slur that's still accepted in society.
So it is a racial. See, I didn't even know. So I'm not even supposed to. See, I don't even say the N word. I say it literally says the N word.
Right.
We don't use that word.
So I'm not even supposed to use the other the R word.
But people do. I just did. I mean, but that's kind of the funny thing. Why is it okay to say redneck? Why isn't it as, I don't know.
But I think that's a good point when. For black people, especially older black people, if the younger kids now, if a white kid is calling a black kid the N word, anyone that has an understanding of history, we know it's offensive, and we'll be like, no, that's not okay. And even with my ignorance with the R word, now I'm wondering, is it the same? Are you not supposed to say it? Is it offensive? And I'm wondering, when the kids use it now, even some white kids, do they just not know that it's bad because they don't know the history of the N-word?
Yeah, I think it's been normalized. I don't think many people think, I'm saying something equivalent to the N-word when I say redneck. I don't think that's how it hits anybody, really.
Okay.
I don't know why not, but I know that's the way it is. Jeff Foxworthy saying you might be redneck, Dave Chappelle using the N-word. There's still just a completely different feel about those two comedy shows. You take your kids to go see Foxworthy. Chappelle.
I wouldn't take my kids to go see Dave Chappelle.
No, right.
No,
exactly.
No.
Right.
I like Dave Chappelle, but I wouldn't take my kids to see him.
Exactly. But it's R-rated. You know what you're getting with it. But it's funny because the idea itself is you are not as smart as the rest of the people. You have some backwards attitudes. You're probably a little racist. You might not have all your teeth. That's a redneck.
So do they identify as that, or is it like you said, is it a racial slur that other people call them because of who they are or how they
and where they're from?
It's probably because you have black people that refer to themselves as the N-word as well, or refer to each other as N-word. It's probably somewhere along those lines. Probably not thought of to be quite as offensive as that. But if somebody says, "Man, you're such a redneck," I'm receiving that as an insult. I know that's a slur, right? But buddy laughing it up, we might say, "Man, I'm such a redneck."
And that's okay.
Right, that's okay, right.
Okay.
Well, we don't use either of those words, but I did not know that was offensive until today. And I say that because I see it, people use it so loosely. Just like how the young people today use the N-word so loosely.
Right.
And you even have, I see white kids use it to black kids, but it's not offensive to them. Back in our days when we were in school, it was offensive.
Yeah.
So now they use the word with each other.
White kids calling black kids the N-word.
Yes, not all of them now, but the ones who have friends that look like me.
Yeah.
That the friends are comfortable with it, they call each other that all day long.
We don't.
Wow.
We would not ever.
We don't allow it. We don't even allow it in our house. We don't allow it at all.
Don't
we don't use
know that I've ever spoken it. It's always been N-word. It has that solid of a taboo around it.
Right.
And think it should, right?
And I used to speak it. I don't anymore, of course. Over the years, I've seen after studying and seeing what it means, and knowing the history of it. We don't even use that word, period.
Yeah.
We better not hear it in our house with our kids.
But that's what I'm thinking with the kids. They don't.
They're ignorant to it. Right. They just hear it in music. They see it on movies, so they think it's okay. They don't take it to heart like we do.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
It
Okay,
is.
so-
It
How do you
is.
feel about the R word?
Yeah.
You know, I think it's probably the attitudes that bother me more than the actual word.
Okay.
And we were just talking about this over dinner a second ago. How, you know, there's that thinking that it's just the Southern whites that were the racists, right? But when King goes up to Chicago, he's hitting the head with a brick. You know, he had big opposition in Chicago. He got stabbed in New York. A crazy lady. About died from that. I mean, like, it was everywhere. It wasn't just in the South.
Yeah.
And you would think those incidents would have occurred in the South.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
It's almost as though, like, the South went through some major pain because of slavery, because of Jim Crow. I mean, just all of that.
Yeah.
But I almost believe, like, we had to work through some things.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't know. I really don't know. I see a lot of posturing and a lot of, I don't know, just, hey, I'm on the side of political correctness out of the coasts and these kind of places. But, like, down here, it's like, I feel like there's more authentic relationships at times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then up north.
Yeah.
Yes. I would
I
agree.
agree. Yeah,
I
I
think
agree
that
too.
like up north, it's blatant. Like when someone's racist, you're gonna know it, and it definitely happens up north. In the South, it's more niceties,
Yeah.
subtle. Like you may think they are, but you don't really know. And if you know their family, then you're like, yeah, they are. But if not, when you see them in public, they're still most of the time will speak.
Right.
Which is different.
Yeah.
Because
We're more close knit too in the South, I think, than up north.
Yeah.
Well, places I lived in. I've grown up in Detroit, Michigan. It's like every man for themselves. So it's not just, you know, person.
Yeah.
Right. It's not just not building relationships with people who don't look like you. It's hard to build relationships with people who look like
Look
you.
like your neighbors.
You know,
right,
so
right.
it's not a race thing there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, like we've talked about this before, I think even in our live last time, you know, just that, like, I grew up in Birmingham. And so in Birmingham, like, I didn't think that this was as big of a thing. But then we lived in a couple of rural areas since we've been married. And, you know, it is a little more, like, I can see where that could be a stereotype. But, you know, growing up in Birmingham, like,
I think Birmingham is a great test case to talk about because,
Yeah.
like, I was horrified to read, you know, Bull Connor and the dogs and the hoses and what King and the movement ran into in Birmingham because it was so unknown to me. Like, the Birmingham I grew up in, the mayors were all black. The council was always black. Like, I had integration in my classrooms. It was just like, what? It used to be like this?
Like, how did you flip?
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying racism doesn't exist or, you know,
That's right.
it's still
Yeah,
a problem in
absolutely.
Birmingham, but it was like, that stuff was so horrific. Like, we came out of that really having to work some things out.
So it was diverse when you were growing up?
Yes. So I look back at my yearbooks
Me growing up, too.
just the other day,
I grew up
and my classroom was 70% white, I think.
Yeah.
70% white. I can't remember. It was Asian and black, white, Asian, and black.
Okay.
And so it was like in a private school. Like it wasn't public school. It was a private school, and it was still diversified. You know, pretty much along the percentages of the community surrounding. You know, and then I look back at Witt and Brooke
So our
when they
kids
went to the
that
same school. Their class was 55% white, 45% black.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, so highly integrated.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean that was kind of our experience,
Yeah,
and then you went
exactly.
to public school in Irondale, which
Yeah.
was also very integrated.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so it you know, like that just wasn't a thing. Now, I'm not even saying, because like it's not like out here there's nobody that's, you know, like not a redneck, or I don't even like. I don't
You're
even
gonna
wanna say
start
that
saying the
anymore.
R word
I know,
now.
R word. So there's people out here that are like in rural areas. I'm not saying just out here, but in rural areas that aren't rednecks or bigots. But you do have a different taste of like, okay, so this does exist. You know, even if it's not everybody.
I'll say kind of what we stated as our goal for even doing this podcast. We saw in Birmingham where racism was made uncool.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the goal here is to make unity awesome, to make unity cool, to make racism uncool.
Right.
And yeah, I guess that was the feeling. It was like you always grew up knowing this is the way the world is supposed to be.
Yes.
This is the way we don't want the world to be anymore. You know?
Yeah. Because even like visiting the Civil Rights Museum, like that was a field trip that was a regular. I've been several times because I have a lot of kids.
Yeah.
And so it's just like you said, we grew up seeing that and saying, no, that's not what this was supposed to be.
Yeah.
You know what it's like. More what it's like now is the way it's supposed to be. There's supposed to be unity.
Absolutely.
Even with diversity. So
do y'all? Okay. No, I was just. No, go ahead.
I think it's interesting that you guys even say that because our 15-year-old, he was like, "Oh, so you guys are pretty close with the Gray family, huh?" So even with him seeing us connected, he's just like he hasn't really ever seen a black and a white family in Fed, just friends.
wow.
Yeah. He said that too. He
That
said,
was
I've never
foreign
seen
for
that
him.
before. He said, I think that's pretty cool. He said, so y'all really tight, huh?
I love
Like,
that.
I
And
think
he was
that's pretty cool.
I love that.
And it was like, wow. And then I looked around the Fed and I was like, well, maybe it doesn't happen. Like,
I thought about it like, I don't know anyone that's, maybe it is something that's foreign.
Wow, that's crazy.
Do you think that that's what happened in Birmingham? That people intentionally made those decisions to do what we're doing right now? You think that's why it flipped? Because that shows you the signs that things have changed when you start seeing it's okay for a black man to be with a white woman. It's okay for a black pastor to be over a white congregation. It's okay for a black city councilman to be over a white community.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't know. I'd be really interested to kind of go back and dig into how the change happened.
Yeah.
I mean, we know the laws, 64, 65, but like how the culture changed. I'd really like to know more myself.
Yeah. But I know, like, with our kids growing up, like, it was intentional that they had, like, Whit's best friend back in Birmingham was black. And, I had intentional conversations with his family, and, like, they loved each other and did life together. And so, I do think that does make a difference. Actually, like, I read a study, and I think it was out of Stanford, maybe, about conversations, and it was about how, like, black and white people want to have these race conversations, especially when they have relationships with black and white people, and how there's just some fear surrounding it, but that these conversations absolutely are valuable and beneficial to the relationships. And like we were kind of talking about how husbands and wives, if you're holding back something, there's going to be a barrier between a husband and wife. And race is such an obvious thing, so it's kind of like this elephant in the room, that if you're friends with black and white people but you're not talking about it, then there's totally going to be barriers in those relationships. And so Ebony and I have always just called it out.
all the time. Make people feel uncomfortable.
Make people feel uncomfortable, And, we were a part of a small group, and actually we had to, like, tell our small group, like, we love each other.
Like, it's okay, guys.
Yeah, we just don't try to put up niceties. We just talk about it.
it showed you it was a fear there, though.
Yes.
It's definitely a fear, because you can see it in their response, and they're like, did you say that?
Y'all talk to each other like that?
Yes. And we are not disrespectful.
No.
We're just direct. We just don't have...
And we love learning from each other, because it's like, wow, okay, so that's what y'all do, that's what it tastes like, that's what it looks like, okay.
Totally.
Y'all are saying what's on other people's mind, really, but they're uncomfortable with saying it.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So y'all making it cool to to have that relationship.
That's right. And she's
that's what we're trying to
upgraded
do.
my life, and I've upgraded her
Yes, my spiral notebook.
life. Okay.
Well, I think we need to kind of stick a pin in it there,
Yeah.
and this will probably be part one of two, as we've got some more to talk about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
But we'll go ahead and say goodbye for today, and we'll see you next time as we pick up this very same conversation.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you for tuning in.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us this week, and may God use you to spread His peace and reconciliation in your community.